All right, Kevin, thanks so much for being a guest on Wicked Smart Golf, man. Really excited to be here with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me and excited to talk golf and talk mutual friends and whatever you want.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I appreciate shout out to Ryan, Old Town Golf Shop, for connecting us. He was a guest, I want to say maybe about 6 months ago. And we had some really good talks about mental perseverance, David Goggins, Taco Bell. We covered all the topics that you need to dominate tournament golf. So I'm sure we'll cover a lot of that today. You have a really cool career, man. You've done a lot, and you are really just, I mean, you're successful with fitness, with distance. Like, there's so much I want to cover with you, but we kind of teased it before we hit record. Like, you had a stacked college team that you were playing with. So what was that kind of junior golf and getting into, college like?
Yeah, junior golf, I was a little bit of a late bloomer for sure. I played a bunch of different sports growing up. I played ice hockey, I played baseball, and I was playing up a little bit in those leagues. And when my older brother went to high school, we didn't have a baseball team anymore. So I kind of picked up golf a little late and just kind of fell in love with it. My parents would drop me off and pick me up at night, and I just kind of love that whole process of it. And where I grew up, fortunately, grew up with Ricky Fowler, and that's kind of what got my attention to Oklahoma State. When I was a young kid, I didn't even know Oklahoma was a state. I mean, I don't have a top five program every year. And when he went to Oklahoma State, he was a freshman. I was a junior in high school, and I would go out and visit him on weekends. And you just you bleed orange there. The town bleeds orange. It's a college town, and I just thought to myself, if I had the chance to go here, that I would never say no. And luckily, Coach McGraw said, "Hey, there's a spot on the team for you," and no scholarship, anything like that. I was willing to walk on, and I fell in love with it. So
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool. So no orange for you on Sunday then? You didn't pick up that one?
I got a little bit of orange. Grayson doesn't have a ton of orange in their wardrobe, but I'll have hints of it here and there. I mean, my irons are black and orange. I got a
Okay.
little bit of kind of stuff like that.
What was it like, going to such a big school? I mean, you had Wyndham, you had Taylor Gooch, you had just a stacked team. What was it like even from high school? There's so many transitions, right? From high school to college, college to Corn Ferry to pro. Like, what was even that first one like? I mean, amateur golf and kids nowadays are just unbelievably talented at such a young age. Obviously, you were too, but like, what was that like? Like the biggest thing going from high school to college golf?
Yeah, it was eye-opening. Definitely in the junior golf and kind of smaller amateur golf side of Southern California, I felt like I was pretty successful. I mean, if you want to call maybe a medium fish, big fish in a small pond, and
Hmm.
kind of good. And then I got to Oklahoma State, and I mean, there was Morgan Hoffman, Peter Uline. I mean, these guys look like full grown men playing unbelievable golf. And I'm just this 18-year-old that's wide eyed and trying to learn college. And so there was definitely a big learning curve. And to have those guys, Kevin Tway, to look up to my first year, it was incredible just to kind of see how they went about their practice, how workouts. I mean, Morgan was so inspirational when it comes to workouts. He was doing extra stuff, and it showed why these guys were so good. Just kind of the way they thought and the way they went about their business. It was eye opening in a very good way.
Yeah, it's amazing when you're just around, players that next level. You can learn so much if you have the right attitude, which obviously sounds like you did. What's a practice schedule look like for like high level college like that? Like what is that? I mean, I told you before we hit record, I was a terrible college player, so I nobody wants to hear my practice routine from college. So what is a average week look like?
Yeah, so Oklahoma State was definitely different than a lot of the colleges that I heard, kind of how their practices were. Coach McGraw and Coach Bratton were very smart in this kind of aspect, I would say, to where we had our classes in the morning, and then we always had lunch at our golf course, which was around 12 or 12:30. And they kind of just let us do what we wanted to do because they believe that, okay, if Morgan wants to go play, that better suits him than someone
Mhm.
who wants to block practice on the putting green and then short game, so stuff like that. So everyone just did their own thing. It was kind of like an unwritten rule that you're here from this time to this time, get your business done. It's pretty easy to tell if you're slacking. And I mean, everyone just kind of pushed each other and it
Mm.
was incredible. So, I mean, some of the worst weather days, I know Ricky loved to go play, Morgan loved to play. So I would go out and play, just kind of follow in their footsteps. And I mean, it was a pretty cool aspect to where I mean, I was there for 5 years and we never had one scheduled team practice.
Wow.
Yeah.
People just did the work. They knew, I mean, obviously everybody wanted to be there, like you said, top five program. So kind of doing the right thing even when no one's watching, it sounds like.
Yeah, 100%.
That's awesome. So what do you think for amateur golfers with practice then? Is there something that where you kind of feel the same way? Like should they practice a certain way, or is it really just kind of figuring out your game or tracking your stats and then addressing weaknesses? What do you think?
Yeah, I think, man, practice is such a broad term. And even to this day, like I'm still trying to fine tune my own practice just to kind
Yeah.
of ways to get better. But I mean, if I had one piece of advice for how to practice, I would say have some very simple fundamentals, like understand your golf swing and why the ball does this and what the
Hmm.
solution is. And then from there, like you need to practice playing the game of golf. I see so many people just all they do is play golf swing. Like get on the range and they got these beautiful swings and they get on the golf course and it looks nice, but it goes everywhere. And it kind of was eye opening to me because you can see guys with amazing patterns just get absolutely dog walked by these guys that don't have very good patterns and they just know how to play the game of golf better. So I feel in my own experience, whenever I'm struggling and then I kind of sit with it and kind of take a look from the outside in, like I'm nitpicking technique, I'm nitpicking every little thing. And then when I'm playing my best golf, I feel like every shot has a shot shape, like a window. And so it's hard to stay in that realm. I mean, I would love to, obviously, every single shot, every single week, but that's just part of it. But I think that's probably my advice would be to try to play the game of golf.
Yeah, a little less golf swing, a little more golf. Totally get that. When you were playing then at in college, like at what point were you like, did you always know you wanted to go pro, or was it like when you were playing in college that you were like, oh, this is definitely the next step? And then, how's that whole process look when you're, 5 years and then you kind of going pro right after? Like, what's that look like?
Yeah, I would say from the very beginning, I always wanted to play golf professionally. I remember when I was just starting out, I would always wear pants. I mean, even in the middle of summer, my grandfather's taking me out and it's 100 in Southern California and I'm wearing pants because that's what the pros do. And
Love it.
yeah, so I always kind of had the dream to go play on the PGA Tour, play golf to support myself, my family, and then I went obviously into college and I had a bunch of guys to learn from, and I'd kind of just gotten better as the 4 or 5 years went on. I did not. It wasn't like I had a shoe in spot every single tournament. I mean,
Mm.
we always qualified for tournaments, so it was pretty cutthroat. And I mean, you would sit home from tournaments and you see guys they're a couple events a year getting on a private plane and you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting here. And like, so you would definitely get pushed that way. And then I had a pretty good senior year and just yeah, gave it a go.
Nice, nice. What's that look like then? Did you go straight into Q school, or did you have any like different mini tours you jumped on, or what was that like?
Yeah, I played. There's like the Adams tour was the kind of the Midwest kind of mini
Hmm.
tour right out of school. And then I did Canada Q school and played up in Canada for a few years. And then let's see, 2017 was a good year. I Mondayed into Riviera for my first
Nice.
PGA Tour event, qualified for the US Open at Erin Hills and played pretty good. And then also Mondayed into Napa. So it kind of felt,
Wow.
yeah, so in one year and then went back to Q school and got my Corn Ferry card. So that felt that I took a step up that year. And then let's see, 2018 to 2024, so 5 or 6 seasons with that COVID year in there.
Hmm.
Corn Ferry, and then had my first full year on the PGA Tour this year.
Yeah, I saw that. I can't wait to learn more about that. I mean, that sounds like 2017. We got to rewind there. That was a heater. Sounds like you were
Yeah.
on. What was it like in your? I guess what was it like getting your first check? Because obviously you're in those college days you weren't making anything, right? So what was it like just even getting your first check? Were you like, wow, this is pretty cool, or was it like, wow, this is a little different?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first check was probably on one of the mini tours, and I mean, people think, oh, you play professional golf, and until you get to a certain aspect, I mean,
Yeah.
the checks for $1,200, and you entry fee was 800, and the hotel
Yep.
400. So like, but you're like, yeah, okay, I gotta play some good golf, or
Mhm.
like this money's gonna go dry. And then, I mean, the first large check was at the U.S. Open, which was pretty cool. It was my first major, made the cut.
Dang.
We played Thursday, Friday, got paired with two Oklahoma State current teammates,
Oh wow.
got Taylor Gooch, Jordan Nieberge. So everyone made the cut. So it was an awesome week. And I got that check. And I'm like, whoa, this is a different ball game. And I think at that time it was a $12 million purse. And that was the largest at the time in
Mhm.
2017. And now obviously 20, 25 million, stuff like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was pretty cool.
That's amazing, man. What was it like even like playing in Canada, you said? I know like weather courses, like how do you just acclimate to all the travel and changes? Like that seems like a really hard part of professional golf. I don't think a lot of people talk about enough.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best part of Canada is it's run pretty much the same as the PGA Tour, to
Mm,
where Monday, 50% of the time there's a pro-am, Tuesday is pretty much a practice round day, Wednesday's a pro-am, Thursday through Sunday is the tournament. And then you figure out if you can get out Sunday night or Monday to the next event. And you learn to travel. There's so many little intricacies of travel and when to get to the golf course. And it's just, I think it's a very good stepping stone to however far your goals want to take you. And
hmm
I feel the way I travel now, I'm so much more relaxed. Like when I came out of college, it was if one little flight gets delayed, it's the end of the world. And I mean, now you just kind of you're used to it and kind of numb to all the travel pains, and you let them roll off your shoulders. So you definitely learn in that aspect.
Yeah, I always, you always see those videos of, TSA or the flight attendants just throwing clubs around. You're like, oh, like please, those are your livelihood right there. Hopefully you have an AirPod tracker and everything in there. But yeah, that always seems like a tough challenge. And obviously with eating and stuff, I can't wait to go into the fitness side of things. But yeah, it seems like that's pretty hard, but you navigated it pretty well. And then what was it like playing in your first major? I mean, how was that one of those moments where you're like, God, I can't believe I really did this?
Yeah, it was incredible. We were, because it was in Wisconsin, Erin Hills, and we were the first tee time off on Thursday. USGA put me with Taylor Gooch and then Jordan Nieberge, who was from Wisconsin. And I mean, national anthem was playing before the first tee shot. And I mean, I hit it. I don't remember hitting it, and I had goosebumps from head to toe. And it was just euphoric. I mean, there was whatever, 40, 50,000 people there all week. And yeah, getting to play Sunday of a major was incredible. And the people were great. The conditions were exactly what you thought. I mean,
Hmm
Aaron Hills was a little bit maybe of a non-traditional US Open, a little wider, but I mean, if you hit it outside of that, I mean, it was hip high fescue. I remember, I think there was a video of Kevin Na or something just losing his mind in a practice round, and I think they cut some of it down because early in the week it might have been shoulder height.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
that's
not.
that's aggressive. I can't even imagine. I guess I forgot to ask too. What was it like even getting into that? Because I'm sure you tried to qualify a lot, right? There's just that's a brutal process in itself. Was that a tough 36 hole day, or did you just have it that day?
Yeah, I mean, I played amazing. I did it in Orange County, California. I played
Nice.
Newport Beach Country Club, and then Big Canyon. And I think I shot 8 under at Newport Beach. I mean, everything just kind of goes your way and cruised it pretty good. And then played solid the front nine of Big Canyon. And then you kind of start to realize that, okay, I got a chance. But no, I think I cruised in pretty good. I think I might have made it by a shot or two clear or stuff like that. And yeah,
That's
incredible. I
That's
mean,
so cool. How do you stay present in that moment? You know that I mean, to get into your first major and to be the US Open, I mean, I'm a big America guy. I just can't even imagine that. Like, do you have any mental tricks? Have you ever worked with a mental coach, or is that like, what's kind of your process when you're coming down the line?
yeah, so I work with, in my opinion, I think he's the best in the world, Dr. Raymond Pryor.
Hmm.
And the one thing I love about him is he will never use anyone's name in a book, will never use anyone's name in an interview. So, like, I have no clue who he works with. I know he works with other sports, I know he works with golf. I have no idea who he works with, which is amazing. And for me personally, like that is
Yeah.
incredible. It's a sacred space. Like I don't mind talking about it because it's me coming out and saying it. But I've been working with him for 2 years. And I think he was the one who kind of finally got me over a pretty big hump. I mean, because I was close a lot and Corn Fair
Hmm.
would always come down to the end and can never get through. And I mean, I think one thing that he talks about with being present is simply connecting with your breath. So you ask yourself, like, how do you know you're breathing? Like, what are the physical signs? And it's different for everyone. But like when I do it, like I can literally feel like the inside of your nostrils. So like you can't be any more present than that when you're that focused on a physiological part of your body. And also, so that's like check one. I mean, check two is can you accept all outcomes? Like not just the outcome of succeeding, but can I accept the outcome of failure? Like, yeah, you can. I mean, it's not life or death. I mean, yeah, it might financially change, it might change some sort of status, et cetera, et cetera. But if you can accept everything, I mean, it's so much easier to play golf rather than
Hmm.
to avoid this and pursue playing well. You can just be in straight pursuit mode and just kind of go.
That's awesome. Yeah, that I just can't imagine how those last few holes you're thinking, man, right or U.S. Open, and then obviously you get to the U.S. Open, that has to be a whole nother beast. Obviously, you'd played on the PGA Tour, done some Corn Ferry stuff. What is it like playing in a major? Like, how much harder is the course set up? What's the vibe, the adrenaline like when you're in those big situations?
Yeah, the vibe's incredible. Just everything's buzzing. I mean, it's white noise. Everyone, everyone's moving, and you would think that would kind of be an issue, but it's really not. I mean,
Mm.
it just looks like kind of a crowd of ants just moving about, and
Yeah.
the conditions were brutal. It was super windy on Sunday in the morning, and I went out with Hao Tong Lee, and he was incredible. But I remember standing on, what was it, the ninth green, and he made his first par. Like, and he was a great sport about it. He was so stoked, and but it was just, I mean, if you're just a little off, I mean,
Yikes.
the difference between 1 yard in the fairway and 1 yard in the rough is, I mean, it's monumental because you can stop
Mhm.
it from the fairway and the rough. You're just trying to figure out how to have some look at a four.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's just, I mean, it's golf's ultimate test, and they definitely set it up that way. So
I love it. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say I love seeing you guys struggle, but we like to see a good challenge sometimes, that
oh,
not that I hate the 20 unders, but I just, we want to feel like we're not all the ones struggling out there because but those US Open ones look brutal. I remember what year was that when Phil just chased the putt and he just took the
yeah,
penalty even though the ball was still rolling. He was just so over it. What's
yeah.
the like mindset you have going into those weeks? You know it's going to be tough. You know it's going to be hard. Do you do anything different or do you just say, hey man, I know it's going to be hard and just kind of accept it?
Yeah, you just got to accept the fact that you're going to hit good shots that are not going to get rewarded.
Hmm.
And I think the people who kind of deal with those the best or don't get phased or pissed off are probably going to have the best chance of playing pretty well. And I mean, it could be it could be gnarly. I mean, you've seen, like you said, with Phil. I mean, there's definitely a fine line between getting a little
Yeah,
outrageous,
goofy golf, right?
yeah, and tough. And I think with who the USGA has brought in, like Jason Gore was working for him for a while.
Hmm.
Scott Langley is doing all their setup, and they're players. Like they played on the tour, so they understand like the playing side. And I think it's helped a bunch because I don't think there's been anything out of control since honestly the tournament where Phil just picked
Mhm.
it up or hit it back or whatever. So I think
Yeah.
it'll be fun.
Yeah, I was going to say, and there's a lot of players those first 2 days too. It must just be packed out there. And obviously, you said,
Oh, yeah.
50,000 people. Do you have a like set preset, or pre-round ritual that you do, whether it's a major or Corn Ferry? Do you have like the same process? What does that look like?
Yeah, so the process is the same for any event. We'll take, for example, I think I had a 6:45 tee time Thursday of the US Open.
Hmm.
And I'm pretty much 3 hours, depending on how far we're staying from the course to get up. So I mean, it was a 3:45
That's
wake up call, and pretty much every week I rent a house just because I love to cook and stuff like that. So get up, breakfast, and then do all my kind of mindfulness meditation stuff for 5 to 10 minutes. Do mobility either at the house or the fitness trailer on site, and then kind of get ready to go. So I probably show up on the putting green about an hour and 10 minutes before. So my warm up probably takes
hmm.
about an hour and then head over to whichever tee I'm going off of.
Yeah, I like that you brought up that it doesn't just start at the golf course. It starts 3 hours before for you, and it's what
Yeah.
you're eating, it's your mindfulness, it's just maybe some mobility or flexibility. So it is like a whole process that you guys have. Man, to think about 3:45, that's a pretty early one. And what is it like when you get on the putting green? Do you have like a set ritual that you do on there as well? I always tell everyone I'd love to see more amateurs to spend more time on the putting green before the round, just to
Yeah.
not screw up the green speed. Like, what do you do? Are you mechanics? Is it drills? What's that process look like?
Yeah, I'd say just a really simple 5 to 10 ball count, just start line drill, easy. I mean,
Hmm.
L's plates, hitting it through T gates, kind of anything you can just to make sure you're starting the ball online that day.
Hmm.
And then from there on out, it's just a bunch of lag putting to kind of get the feel of the greens, and then just kind of start to slowly work a little closer to the hole and do like maybe like a star drill where it's 3 feet, 6 feet, 9 feet,
Hmm.
12 feet, and 15 footer or something like that, and kind of go through your process and hit good putts and not live or die if they go in or not. Just kind of make sure that everything's feeling pretty normal and kind of go from there.
What do you do when you have a tough warm up? Because I think that it's always funny when you have those days where it's like, man, I hit it terrible, and then you go play great, or and then vice versa. Sometimes, like, what are you telling yourself, or do you not even really worry about it now?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm really worried about it because it almost feels just like you're just trying to get loose. And um, I don't know if there's at this level, I don't know if there's anyone really feels like they just have like a god awful warm up. Um, Maybe you can fake it, hit shots and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I think it could be a good thing. You just kind of go out there and try to figure out what you have that day and just make best of it. I mean,
Hmm.
you're sitting on the driving range and you can't draw it off the right side of the range. I mean, I probably wouldn't get up on the first hole and send it down the right and try to draw it. Just kind of go with what you got.
Go with what you got. I like that. Do you have a pretty religious like pre-round like strategy in terms of I know what club I'm hitting, what shot shape, like what's the homework look like for your practice rounds and maybe off-course stuff?
Yeah, so before a tournament round, we get the pins every night. So
Mm.
I'll put the pins in for the next day and obviously check the wind that morning on which direction it's coming from. And then kind of towards the end of my warm up, I start playing the first 3 or 4 holes. I mean, so whatever, the first hole's down off the right, par five. Okay, I'm gonna hit a driver. It's gonna probably end up around here, what, 235 front. It's a back left hole, and then we just kind of play.
Hmm.
We play the first couple holes, draw it into the back left hole. Okay, next hole's a par three, front right. We're gonna fade it, and just kind of do that way to get into the playing mode. That's kind of my ritual.
I like that. Yeah, that feels like a pretty common thing I hear. It's just to try and get the mind working as well as the body and hitting some different shots. Do you have a certain like strategy you go out with, or is it like you're playing with 6 3-hole chunks, or is it one shot at a time, or you want to make X birdies? Like what's the kind of strategy throughout the round?
Yeah, the strategy definitely comes one in the preparation, and then two, kind of what the golf course is kind of willing to give up, I guess. I mean, early in the week, if it's firm, and then whatever, if it rains Wednesday night,
Mm.
and kind of all that changes. But yeah, I mean, if you could play in that perfect one shot at a time, that would be ideal. I mean, the more present you are, the better the better off you're going to be. I mean, we definitely don't play our best golf when we're looking at the finish line, and if you're dreading on something that happened that's never going to change, like so. I mean, yeah, if I had to, I mean, one shot at a time would definitely be the saying for sure.
Do you try and ever like feel like you're going to chase some birdies early on, or just kind of let the round happen?
Yeah, just kind of stick to the game plan that we prepped Monday through Wednesday. I mean,
Hmm.
we do a pretty good job of this is where we want to hit it. Here are the pins from previous years, and just kind of stick to that game plan.
Do you watch any of the coverage if you're like later and like it's on in the morning, or what's that like?
A little bit. They've done a pretty good job now with kind of the PGA Tour live deal to where it's on, and I think the caddies probably watch it a little
Mm.
more. I have a tough time watching golf, to be honest with you. I feel like I got better time than just to kind of sit around in the morning and watch my buddies hit it. And I think some guys do. I
Yeah.
personally, I wouldn't say. I mean, it might be on if someone I'm staying with in the house turned it on, but I don't think I've ever logged on to, I think it's Peacock or whatever, and turned it on. I think maybe in tougher conditions like a major, it could be
Hmm.
a little beneficial, but I think on a week in, week out basis, it's pretty much the same.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like it could be fun, but or it could just be like you're making it harder, if it's like a tough day out there or trying to think too much about it. What's the caddy relationship like? Like how do you guys plan stuff ahead? Is it like I've always wondered with green reading specifically, is it like you read it and then if you don't know it, you bring him in for help? Like I just feel like more isn't always good sometimes with information. Like how's that dynamic changed over the years?
I think it depends a lot on the player caddy relationship. I've had my caddy for 7 years,
Oh,
and
nice.
I don't think he ever read a putt. I feel like I read greens
Yeah.
very well, and it's something that I kind of work on. But I've seen the complete opposite side of the spectrum where the caddy is amazing at aim point. I mean,
Hmm.
he can tell you down to the decimal, and he reads it for his player, and he does all the finger stuff, and he says, "Okay, hit it here," and the player's just like, "Bang." So I definitely think it's a individual basis on kind of what people want, but I would have a hard time, I think, if I saw something, whatever, right edge, and somehow my caddy sees it left center. My brain would spaz. I don't know what I'd do.
Totally.
So
That's why I asked sometimes because I was playing in a
yeah,
partner event with my buddy and yeah, he didn't really ask me on the first one. I just kind of said what I saw and he saw it going the other way and I'm like, "Oh, whoops, we got to like really clarify that." But so obviously when you're playing for millions of dollars it means a lot more, but I was just kind of always wondered. So you guys always know ahead of time. It sounds like he's not helping you with that. Sounds like you're obviously a good green reader. So green putting, I mean amateurs, the data is apparent. We really struggle with putting. You got any good green reading tips or what's kind of your strategy to find the true role of it?
yeah. I mean, I just think repetition for sure. And I think a really good drill would be, say, if you got 5 balls, just toss them at random distances, and then get 2 dimes or 2 tees or something like that, and kind of get behind it and read it however you thought. And
Hmm.
wherever you think the ball is going to roll over, go ahead and put the 2 dimes up like a putter head width and roll the ball through it. So one, you're working on your start line to see if you can start it where you want. And then when that ball goes through the center of those dimes, if it goes in, then obviously you read it right, obviously that's proper speed. And then you just continue to fine tune your green reading, kind of see your tendencies. So I had to guess a lot of ambers probably read it, I would say slightly low and hit it harder.
Hmm.
And then just kind of chart those if you want to. I mean, if you got whatever 5 or 6 putts and you just missed 4 out of 6 low,
Hmm.
start trying to bump them up, and you'll probably see the percentage of them going in go up.
Do you have a set like two or three things you do for every green read? Like I know your putting routine, pre-shot putting routine, we'll get into in a sec, but like for green reading, do you do like I read it from behind, I walk it up, or is it just kind of change for each putt?
Yeah, I would say I definitely I try to pace it a little bit if I can. I'm not measuring my putting stroke based off of.
Yeah, Bryson doing that? That's crazy.
Yeah, he's a smart fellow that will try anything, and you got to applaud him for that. I mean,
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it works for him. For me though, my it would be so weird to be like, oh, this is my, right toe or wherever he like is trying to go
yeah,
to. So you're
no,
not quite like that, but
I
you
think
have
it's
your
just
own.
more like subconscious,
Mhm.
kind of what I'm trying to do, and then I always kind of start reading it from behind, and then I kind of go halfway between the hole and the putt, just to see uphill, downhill, how much kind of from the lateral view, and
Mhm.
really try to see the entry point and kind of come back from the entry point and then go from the start line and just kind of start to match up and pick something that I want to roll it over. And that's kind of my focus.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, the entry point, I feel like that's a pretty common one if you can just see it. Do you think about it like in a clock system or do you just
Yeah.
trying to yeah.
Yeah. Clock. And then I do a lot of drills to where I'll take like a sticker and I'll put it wherever I think it's going to go in and
Mm,
I do stuff like that.
that's a good idea. I never thought about the sticker. Okay,
Yeah.
wicked smart approved right there.
You use one of the almost like the three ring hole punch protectors.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just like literally a little circle sticker. It has the middle put out, and I don't like using coins when the ball's rolling over it because I feel like it
Yeah,
can knock it off.
totally.
And that thing's so thin it goes right over it. Has no idea. So
Love that. Okay, cool. So
yeah,
you have the good putting routine or green reading routine. What about putting routine? I mean, I geek out on like routines. I love watching Tiger and anybody, honestly, all you guys when I watch golf, I watch like stuff like that because I like to see how regimented you guys are. So what is your like process? Do you have has that evolved over your college and pro career and like what do you how do you feel like that helps you feel confident out there?
yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think having a good amount of structure in your routine probably keeps you more present than if you're just going out, hit and giggle and winging it, just kind of under those high pressure situations. And yeah, I try to do the same thing every time. And when I play some of my best golf, like I'm timing my routine from when I walk in to when the club gets pulled back.
Mm.
I mean, it'll be within a half a second,
What's
like
the time?
every time. I mean, it depends. So I have a couple different. So, like for example, for a cut driver, I have a time. For a normal driver,
Mm.
I have time. Just because I do, whenever I hit draws and cuts, I personally change my grip. So, like when I cut it, I go weaker,
Hmm.
and so kind of the way I walk into it changes. So
Okay.
you have all those times, and obviously a short game shot has its own time. A bunker, just because the
Hmm.
way you're getting into it is a little different. But yeah, so when those, I feel like when those are very tight, like you're definitely focused on the right thing.
That's awesome. I never even thought about the different drivers. So you have a mini driver too, right?
Yeah, I've played. It's like I use it as my 3 wood. I've played it for, yeah. What year did Phil win the PGA at Kiawah? Was that
Uh
2010?
20 what was that?
I
Phil
think
P-
21 maybe. I think it was
I think
21
you're
at Kiawah.
yeah, I think you're right. I'm gonna look up here.
And I saw that he was using it, and I hit a ton of 3 woods off the tee. And I just feel like into the wind, 3 woods are the margin of error is so small, especially with my speed, to where if you neck it, it's terrible.
Hmm.
So I tried it, and I mean, the thing has not come out of my bag for 4 or 5 years.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, I didn't really. I just started using one about 6 months ago because Scott Fawcett from Decade told me like for
Oh
a
yeah,
year straight. He's like, do it," and I don't know why I didn't. And now I am pissed that I didn't do it sooner. And I saw Titleist just rolled theirs out today.
yeah,
So the mini driver seems like a pretty good thing for faster swinging players.
yeah.
You're next level fast. So I want to get into the driving. Overall, like, have you always just been a good driver? I mean, I got to go through some of these numbers I had for you for the PGA
Yeah.
Tour this year. Third in strokes gained, fourth in driving distance, average club head speed 126, average drive just a casual 310. Damn, that's impressive.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've always been that fast. I'd say coming out of college, I was mid 170s to high 170s. And then I would say golf swing got better. Some of the fitness stuff was starting to pay off. And then
Hmm.
2020 when back to Bryson, he gets kind of keeps getting brought up, but
I love it.
talking about all his speed. And I mean, obviously he got up over 200. I was over at TPI, Titleist's Performance Institute, and Greg Rose was helping me. He's like, hey, let's just see kind of what we can get to and what our ceiling is. And I mean, it started to ramp up pretty good. So I stuck with that kind of regimen for about a year. And we were in Huntsville, Alabama on Corn Ferry one year, and I recorded like 203. I mean,
Wow.
obviously on the range to where you're not worrying about where the ball goes. You're just simply trying to club head speed and ball speed to get as fast as you can. And it's kind of stayed, I'd say 185, kind of in the normal. And then you get during some of the hotter months, I mean, it can start moving at 186, 87, 190 if it gets real hot and stuff like that. And that's really all I want to go. I mean, anything 182 to whatever, 186 is plenty. There's just a
Mhm.
lot of time, there's not anywhere to hit it.
Mm.
Once it gets like 190, it just a lot of stuff necks up or the holes dog leg, and it's just not worth it.
Yeah, yeah, that's
I'm
very
at there.
fair. So what's the process like then with that speed training for the year? Was that I know Bryson had it, his own thing. He was hitting what 150, 200 drivers like pretty much every day, hard.
Yeah.
We have speed trainers out there. Obviously,
Mhm.
the fitness I want to get into, but what was that process like for you?
Yeah. So it was when I heard Bryson was doing a one like 150 shots, I'm holy cow, he's got to be exhausted because kind of the regimen that Greg Rose took me through was TPI has, I want to say, 10 swing thoughts that they've figured out through all their studies that increase club head speed.
Mm,
So we go through those 10. He kind of cues me on for lift your left heel, take it faster back. I don't remember all 10, but I
hmm
remember. And then he charts, okay, this one spiked this by this many miles an hour. So then they take about two or three of the ones that really kind of spiked your club head speed. He's like, okay, these are the three that you're going to work on. So for me, it was lift my left heel, take it faster back and a little longer. So those are kind of the three cues. And it's kind of like baseball to where you have three strikes. So I'll get up and if we're starting my speed training, hit the first one on TrackMan, the club head speed's 125. That's my baseline.
Okay.
So then I have then I rake another ball and I hit it. And we're only looking at club head speed. If that one was 126, that's my new baseline.
Mm,
So then I grab another ball and I hit it. And it was 124. I got one strike. And then next one, 128. 128 is your new baseline.
oh gosh.
So, and then obviously, eventually you're going to just get slow enough. The science behind it is you want to move fast. So if you're doing all the speed training and then you start to see 123, 122, you're actually training to be slow. I mean, it's no different than a power lifter in the Olympics. They're only going to train 1, 2, 3, 4 reps. They're not going to continue to try to hang
Mm,
clean 350 because they're going to get tired and it's going to get slow and stuff like that. And
gotcha. So if you're getting slower, you're just done once you hit
yeah,
the three
yeah,
strikes.
you're done. You're absolutely done. And if you want, you can do it once or twice a week. And yeah, it slowly raises your ceiling and
Hmm
then your playing speed just kind of follows it to
hmm
where now you feel like you just get up and hit a cruiser on the first tee and you're swinging 2 to 3 miles an hour faster, which is 10 to 12 yards.
hmm Okay,
Sure.
I like that. I've never heard of the three strike system. I feel like that's
Yeah,
really effective because I feel like people can easily overtrain, like you said, and then it's just
I
training you
think,
to be trying to be
yeah, I
slow.
think, yeah, there's plenty of ways to skin the cat, and that way worked amazing for me.
Do you do it indoors or outdoors?
I always just did it indoors.
Yeah, indoors. Do
Sorry,
you?
sorry, sorry. Outdoors. I would do
Oh,
it.
outdoors. Okay.
Yeah, I would do it on the range. It was kind of fun too because
Yeah.
these balls went everywhere. Like you do not. That's kind of the hard part mentally. Like we want to see him go straight, right?
Right.
And that was the one thing. Greg said. He goes, I don't care if you top it. I don't care if you whiff it. I don't care if you the only thing we're trying to do is get that number on the TrackMan of club head speed higher.
Mm.
Just don't worry about where the ball goes. So I could see where doing it indoors, you might have less scar tissue. But I mean, you would just wail on these things. And I mean,
Yeah.
when you connect on one and it goes straight, the ball never comes down.
That's sweet. Yeah. Do you feel like do you like warm up then and like do all your normal stuff and get to that place? And then obviously that's just kind of the end of the session whenever you get that third
Yeah.
strike.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
How many balls would you hit then?
Oh man, I think maybe my best was maybe 12, 13 or something like that.
Okay. So you're not doing the 150 to 200 like Bryson then.
No, I wasn't personally. I mean, I think I think when I got to the 203 or 204, it was like 133 club head speed or something like that.
Hmm.
So, and yeah, I
That's
mean,
crazy,
you're
dude.
spent after it for sure.
How often are you going through drivers?
Oh man, I might crack one or two a year.
Wow, okay. I mean, yeah, your averages are nuts. 126, like that's wild. What's the mini driver? I was watching a video of you on the PGA Tour before we hit record, and I was really liking your swing's awesome, by the way. I'm sure you heard that a million times, but love the swing. And you got a 7 wood shaft in the mini driver. What's the difference between your driver and mini driver like setup? I think people really like to
Yeah,
know that.
yeah. So, because I wanted that mini driver to go a certain distance.
Mm,
And we were just like, we're just going to continue to cut this thing shorter and shorter and shorter until it goes that distance with the proper spin. And yeah, I think it's probably 5 wood or 7 wood length. And so, I mean, it feels like a kid's club because it's got a decently sized, like a medium sized head and it's pretty
yeah.
short. And I just play a standard driver. So off the tee, the mini probably flies 280. And then I mean, on a whatever flat 70-degree day, I mean, driver's probably going to fly, I don't know, 305, 310, something like that.
Hmm. What's the
But
driver loft?
it is 8 set
Okay.
on slightly higher. And then, God, I'm terrible with all my, like, I'm not a big club guru or tinker.
I'm not much. Ryan's kind of my go-to
Oh,
when I
yeah,
have a
obviously.
question. Like my driver, finally, I cracked a face finally, and he had a new Callaway for me. I used it because I was
Yeah,
just hitting mini all day, which I like, but I'm like, man, I'm giving up like 20 yards here still. So
yeah.
it is kind of confusing. I know people really geek out on the gear stuff, but it sounds like you kind of found something that works, and then you don't have
Yeah.
any 3 wood. What's your next longest club then?
I go 3 iron.
Okay.
So it flies 250. So it goes 250, 280, 310, which is fine. I mean, kind of up towards that part of the bag.
Yeah.
And yeah, then I go 3 iron, 4 iron through pitching wedge, and then 3 wedges.
Okay, man, that's impressive. Tell me when you started doing the driver versus draw versus fade different driver routines and stuff. I never heard of that.
Yeah, just working with my coach and who wasn't it? It was Kevin Tway actually worked with my coach and they grew up together and Kevin had this shot that he'd call it the ABC, always be cutting.
Mm,
And you tee it low and I mean the thing comes out half as high and just always has a little bit of peel to the right. So I think maybe once we kind of figured that that's a pretty good shot to have at any level, that was kind of when I figured, okay, like this is how I grip it and stuff like that, and just kind of evolved from there.
that's awesome, man. Yeah, it sounds like you're killing it. Third in strokes gained off the tee. So, driver is pretty dialed. We went through some mental game stuff. I got to ask a couple questions about the fitness side of things. Like I said, my girlfriend is all things fitness. You are, I mean, when I first Googled you, the first thing came up was a golf.com article you did. Where did the importance of all this fitness and nutrition come into your golf game?
Yeah, so I got hurt in college. I'm trying to think. It was my second or third year, and I kind of just had some lower back pain. At first, it started a little bit with driver, and then it kind of started to creep into my 3 wood, and then kind of my irons. I'm like, what's going on? And so
Mm.
went in for an MRI, and I actually had a pars fracture, which is kind of like a stress fracture in my L5. So I didn't play an entire spring.
Oh wow.
I'm gonna say it was maybe my third year. Kind of got the MRI late December, and then took the entire spring off because pretty much just did rehab. And from there on, I was like I'm never getting hurt again. And that evolved into the fitness part of it, the nutrition part of it. I mean, I've always been a pretty skinny kid. I mean, I got to college, I was eating Chick-fil-A, 20, I mean, and I mean, I never could put on a pound of weight, but I don't know. I mean, there's probably inflammation and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And then when Morgan graduated was, or when he left to turn pro, he was working with his guy in New York. And I remember we were talking one day and there was like this list of pretty much the way to eat. I mean, it was no dairy, no gluten, no sugar, only sugar coming from like organic fruits and stuff like that. And I looked at him like, what about this? He goes, no. What about this? No. And I'm like, okay. And since that day, I mean, it has been that. And yeah, so I give everything to him. I mean, he's definitely the one that kind of flipped that switch.
Do you feel like you have more like mental energy as well late in the round?
Yeah, a ton. I mean, I feel amazing from the minute I wake up and I sleep like a baby. I
Mm.
don't feel like I'm tired. I feel like I recover from my workouts. I mean, today we played 18 holes. It was blowing 30, and I pushed my staff bag because we've had 6 inches of rain through the mud. Like it was tough. Like I feel like right now, I feel like I could go work out. Like my energy is amazing. I don't,
Nice.
yeah, I don't feel like I ever need a nap and stuff like that. And I do blood work 2 times a year, every 6 months,
Hmm.
and it continues to get better every marker. So it's kind of like my own little personal study of, I call it traditional, like medicine, if you want to call
Hmm.
food and all that stuff,
Totally.
rather than taking a pill to lower your blood pressure.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, I mean, the proof's in the pudding for me.
100%. Do you have any go-to? Because I was kind of joking when I was or before we record, you said that you pretty much just meal prep and then you just bring that on the golf course. So do you get some good looks from competitors out there when you're housing a steak and rice or in the middle of the round, or what's that?
Oh yeah, I mean, people are looking at me like, "What is this guy doing?" But no, it's just easy and just make enough kind of that night and put it in a Tupperware and just take it on the course. I mean, I don't think it ever gets too hot to have to worry about it going bad.
Yeah.
Eating it pretty quick, so it goes down pretty well.
Love the commitment out there. I mean, it's whatever you can get, right? Physical or mental edge, and clearly you are leaving no stone unturned. I absolutely respect that. Do you feel like more players are getting on that health and fitness? Not all of us can be John Daly out there smoking cigs and drinking Diet Cokes.
Yeah, I think it's definitely gaining some traction for sure. I mean, there's still plenty of guys that will have a couple cocktails every night and
Mm.
go down the player dining and get pancakes and some toast and beat the brains out of people.
Right.
Like,
Yep. I guess figure out what works, right?
yeah. So, but no, there's definitely, I mean, you see, there's a ton of physio guys out there every week. There's trainers there every week. I mean, the tour's doing a lot of stuff. I mean, every week we had a recovery center where
Mm.
it was 4 cold tubs, saunas. I mean, it's amazing.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, I mean, there was so many perks that I think are coming from it to where a lot of guys are utilizing it.
I feel like you need a golf fitness brand. Is that coming?
Oh man, I don't know.
Feel like I mean, you got the meal prep side of things. You talked about recovery a little bit. You obviously know your workouts, speed. I'm just saying, I mean, if you need, something else, I know you're, not busy or anything, but
Oh, we got
I'm just
two
saying, you
high
know your stuff. And I feel like so many golfers, I mean, you look at the average golfer and what they look like and their lack of mobility and house and a hot dog and 3 beers and, calling it a day. No judgment, but I know everybody wants to play better. And it's like, nobody wants to get injured, like you said. And so since that day, it sounds like it's been good and you've been, knock on wood, injury free.
Yeah, no, I've been great. I got an amazing team around me in that aspect. And
That's awesome.
yeah, I work with a guy out in Encinitas, Robert Yang,
Oh,
and
cool.
yeah, he's been incredible.
Love it, man. Cool. Well, before I get into the last question, I like to do a quick rapid fire Q&A. You got a couple minutes?
Yeah, no, I got all the time you need.
Perfect. Favorite golf course? It's a big one.
Ooh, we were talking about this today, actually. I gotta say either Riviera or Pebble.
Man, Riviera. I haven't played Riviera. I have played Pebble. Love those. Favorite type of workout?
Favorite type of workout? Definitely just my functional weightlifting that I do. I mean, I love to train. So I don't do the Peloton. I'm not going to go on a jog. I love to
Mhm.
lift, but I mean, it's not obviously like bodybuilding is super functional, but it brings me joy.
Love it. Yeah, and if you like it, that helps too, right? So if you hate it, that makes for a long day. But it sounds like you love it. Who would you like to play with that you haven't got a chance to yet?
Man, probably, probably Tiger. Um, it's unfortunate to see kind of the shape that he's in. I mean,
The guy's
he,
still built though. I mean, he turned 49
yeah,
today, and he looks like he's 30.
I know he looks good. And I just had so many surgeries, and I just don't know how much he's going to play. I mean, it would have been incredible to play with him in his heyday. Um, and I'd say the most impressive that I played with was probably I think Rom was the most impressive. It
Mm.
was unbelievable.
Just doing everything right.
Yeah, we played a couple of years ago, and we actually played with him and Phil and Tom Pernice down at the farms.
Oh, nice.
John works with Dave Phillips from TPI, and John literally aimed it 1 yard inside the left rough every time. And he either cut it in the middle of the fairway, hit a straight ball in the left side of the fairway, or sliced it in the right side of the fairway. And he shot like the easiest 11 under I've ever seen. I mean, it looked like a robot.
That's
It was,
wild.
it was the most impressive I've ever seen. I mean, he's different.
Dang, 11 under casual. All right. What's the best shot you've hit under pressure that you can remember?
Oh man, best shot under pressure that I can remember. Oh, um, I would say one that's just kind of come into my head was we were playing a Corn Ferry event in Savannah. It was either Saturday or Sunday. The last hole was a par five, and I think maybe it was to get into top five or something like that. And I think I hit a 6 iron to literally on the lip, and I mean, I felt because I knew I was kind of in contention, and so you definitely have those feelings, and kind of to pull it off and to walk up there and not even have to mark it was pretty nice.
Yeah, it's always nice when you don't have to really use the putter or think too hard on the last
Yeah,
shot.
yeah. Probably just use the same 6 hours.
What's the most memorable moment since turning pro?
Most memorable moment, man. I mean, definitely obtaining my tour card last year and kind of walking off that green and seeing my wife, and my daughter was probably 2 at that time, just before 2, and my parents were there, my brother. So probably say that for sure.
Nice. That's amazing, man. Well, congrats again. And for the last question, I'm curious. I know you've played in a lot of pro-ams. You've played, obviously, with a lot of amateurs. What do you think is the biggest mistake most amateurs are making in terms of course management out there?
Not hitting enough drivers. I mean, half the time these guys don't hit it out of their shadow and they're teeing off with like 3 wood and hybrid. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like, one, drivers got more face, so you're probably gonna make better contact. And why are we laying up? Like, your driver goes 240. I mean, let's try to get this thing going forward. I mean, it's crazy. Some of these guys hit 3 wood, especially like when like their teammates are down in the fairway and they got no pressure. Like, come on, hit driver. So I think that for sure.
I get it. I guess I got to follow up for one last one then. What would you say is the biggest thing to help them hit driver better?
Oh man.
Because you're clearly crushing it.
Yeah, probably just simply understand how to hit draws and fades. Like, a draw, the face has to be shut relative to the path. Like, a cut has to be open relative to the path. So just kind of understanding that concept. And I mean, who knows? Maybe even looking at it kind of like a baseball field. I mean, if you want to draw it, kind of swing out to right center and have the face pointed at center, left center. Like, that's going to make the ball go right to left, and then vice versa. Like, start it down the third baseline and kind of have the face open. It's going to cut. So just kind of just being a little bit of a student of the game. If you really want it, I mean, obviously some guys that are in pro-ams that are 34 handicaps, like probably have better time spent on other things. But I mean, if you're willing to have a little bit of time, just kind of experiment and just hit shots.
Hmm. Love it, man. Well, you've shared a ton of knowledge. You are the definition of wicked smart and wicked fit. So we appreciate you being here and sharing so much with us today, man.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having us. We got to play some golf when I get to Arizona.
I would absolutely love to. You just let me know. I'm in South Scottsdale, and I'll happily come and watch you hit 126 mile an hour all day.
Let's do it.